the ladder of God, and we went through the meaning of the top of the ladder, the letter Yud, which is about the devotion of the Jew to serve Hashem beyond logic and reason, the yearning to do a mitzvah that is part of our very core. We started learning now also at the letter Hey, which is about our understanding of Hashem. And we explained that you can't serve Hashem in your behavior fully unless your mind is changed. In order for your mind, in order for you to act in your behavior in the perfect way, it starts with your understanding of Hashem. Because it says in the Torah, know the God of your Father and serve him with a complete heart. A complete heart, we learned yesterday, means that not only does your mind, the thoughts in your mind about Hashem enter your heart, but that your heart is fully affected by those thoughts, so that you are, so your behavior is animated to serve Hashem in the way that you're meant to. Know the God of your Father and serve him with a complete heart. Only if you do know the God of your Father can you possibly serve him with a complete heart. You can't serve with a complete heart without knowledge. And it's possible that what you know doesn't enter your heart because of something going on between your mind and your heart, as we learned yesterday about the 3 ministers of the Pharaoh. And that's why it's so important to have das. Das means not just to learn, but to connect with what you're learning and make it relevant for you in a way that will affect the way you feel. And this will cause your actions to be on a different level. And we explored the meaning of das. We said that das means when you're learning Gemara, not only do you have the knowledge of what Rashi and Tosfos say, but you are also able to give your own insight into it, your own perspective in it. Not necessarily does this mean that there's some brilliant new insight that you need to print, but that you have something to say about it. It's yours. Same as also regarding chassidus, that you have it's true, not just as true in Torah, but it's true in your perspective. You have something to say about it. Continuing this theme, the Rebbe discusses various components of understanding Hashem's truth. Let's go right to it. It says we say in our prayers, you were the same before the world was created, and you are the same now after the world was created. Equally. Why? Because the entire creation of the world is with a tiny ray of your energy. God created the world, the Torah, with the Yud K, with the letters Yud and the letter Hey. The letter Yud created the world to come. The letter Hey created this world. So when you think to yourself deeply, and you explain to yourself, if a human being who is limited and a creation of God, 2 letters are completely insignificant in comparison to his power of speech, and certainly there's insignificant compared to his power of thought, and how much more so are they insignificant compared to his very core? So if that's true, can you imagine how insignificant lahavdil, this human being and Hashem himself are infinitely lower, or there's a complete separation between the existence of human being and the existence of Hashem, meaning what Hashem is, what a person is. So if for a human being 2 letters are nothing, compared to Hashem, how much more so? That means the entire spiritual cosmos is insignificant compared to Hashem's essence. And that's why it says in the Torah, Lo Yishanisi, God says, I haven't changed. So this is the meditation, how Hashem is one, and how everything before Hashem is like nothing, literally. And there is an advantage in thinking about it, and that is that when you think about something, it's revealed inside of you, inside your soul. That when you understand the godly concept, and it makes sense to you, and you're able to explain it, it's now revealed in your soul. The first level that we spoke about, the highest level, the level of the Yud, the level of Chachma, that's beyond logic and reason. That's not revealed in you. No thought can grasp Hashem. That's what the first level is about. Chachma, that's a connection we spoke about, that it motivates a Jew to give his life That's unshakable. It's very powerful, but it's not a revelation. It's just the truth that you hold on to no matter what, but not that you feel the truth, not that it's revealed to you. It's something that you can't let go of, but you don't even know why. The idea of understanding is that you do grasp something, that it's something that it's personal and relevant, and it makes sense to you. And that's the meaning of the verse, know God, the God of your Father, and serve Him with a complete heart. In order to be able to serve Hashem, it's through knowledge, through knowing Hashem. The Shalah explains the verse, know the God of your Father, in the following way. The Shalah says, there is the belief in God you have because of your father. But the Torah says that it's not enough to have the acceptance of faith that you got from your father. The Torah says, know the God of your father. There is something you received from your father about God. Your father told you the truth about Hashem. So now the Torah says, now that you receive this truth, it says the Shalah, know the God of your father. You yourself must know what your father gave you. You have to understand it. You have to delve deeply into it and make it personal and connect with it. So in addition to the need for delving deeply into Hashem's truth in order to affect our behavior, besides that, there's an independent need of a Jew to delve deeply into godliness. In other words, it's not just about the result, it's also about the journey. Hashem wants us to delve into godliness independent of the result. It's like Nasa and Nishma. Before, in order to obey Hashem, to obey Hashem in the proper way, you need to understand what the mitzvah is. But then there's something independent about this, that Hashem still tells you, I want you to think about me anyways. You're already doing what you're supposed to do. You're already doing the right thing, but now you also have to feel what it's about. There also has to be the nishma. You also have to feel it, not just do it. So that's also in the chassidus about nas and nishma. But here the point is, Hashem wants a Jew to delve deeply into godliness just for the sake of that experience itself. Just like in the mitzvah of knowing Torah, there's a mitzvah to know what you're supposed to do, and there's a mitzvah to know Torah. So everyone has to have a set time to study the laws of Torah, to know what they're supposed to do. And even many people that Rebbe says who are God-fearing, they stumble about many laws of blessings. They don't say the right blessings for different things.
Like when to make shakal.
Right. Let's say shakal takel. Either because they never knew or because they forgot. So that's one component of study of Torah. Learn to know what to do. Then there's a second component. What's the second component? Learn because this is God's Torah. It's a mitzvah to know Torah. Not because you're supposed to do something with it, just because you're supposed to know Torah. And the same is also with learning the inner dimension of Torah. There's two parts. One is to learn for the sake of your service of God, to have a full heart, to have a complete heart, to serve God, to have das, to have a connection in a way that you understand and it's relevant and it affects the way you act. And the second thing is to know for the sake of delving deeply into godliness. The main thing is that you are making an effort that your mind should be involved in godliness. There's a teaching that Chassidim have about what you're supposed to do in your free time. The h'trcz Machkan al used to say, if you can think chassidus, then you should sing a song. At least sing a song. In other words, like, what are you supposed to be doing when you're walking the street and you're in Spartan final between the aisle 5 and aisle 6 trying to find the sugar? You're supposed to be thinking about chassidus. That's what Chassidim thought about. What did I learn? What does it say? What did Rebbe say? What does that mean?
Chassidus your song as we walk.
Oh.
No, seriously.
Yeah. Why should they own the aisles, right? Anyways, so it says in the Torah, in this week's Torah portion actually, in the part of the song to Hashem, we say, this is my God and I will glorify him. This is the God of my Father and I will exalt him. So the Shalah explains, this means revelation. If it's my God, if I could point to him and say it's my God, I understand him and I know him, then I will I will glorify him, but also the word glorify him, anveyu, also could be read as I am and him are one. Ani v'hu, I'm one with him. Because when I know Hashem, it's in my heart. And if he is only the God of my father, if it's only something I've received, then arei memenhu, then I will exalt him. He's distant from me. He's beyond me. So there are advantages in Chachma over Bina. There are advantages of Bina over Chachma. So far in this section of the discourse, we're talking about how great Bina is. Bina is about revelation, that you experience it, that you feel it. It's all about you. But there's an advantage of Chachma, because Bina is about your experience. So it's not about the Hashem's truth as much as Chachma is. Chachma is a negation before Hashem's truth, and Hashem's truth is shining. Chachma is ayin, Bina is yesh. Chachma is a sense of nothingness, and Bina is a sense of somethingness. So yet there's still advantage in understanding, and therefore you have to have both. You have to have Chachma and you have to have Bina. That even while you're in the process of understanding, you have to remember the point that's beyond understanding, and that while you're delving deeply into the idea and looking at the details of the idea, it's not just about the understanding. It gives an analogy of a smaller or a wise man, a great wise man, and a wise man is not so smart. There's two wise men. One is a really wise man. One he calls a chacham katan. He is not as great of a wise man, but he has some wisdom. So the smaller, what's the word? Whatever.
Lesser, smaller.
The guy with the lesser wisdom. Thank you. The guy with lesser wisdom feels insignificant in comparison to the person with the greater wisdom. But why does he feel insignificant? Because he knows more. So he's insignificant because of his understanding. That's not chachma. Chachma is not that you feel insignificant because of your understanding. Chachma is that there is no sense of self at all. The Zohar describes chachma as nekuda ve'chala. The Zohar describes the world of Atzilus. There is a point in the chamber. That means that there's a point of truth, and the whole chamber, the whole experience is about the point of truth. It's not about because you understood, therefore that makes you feel a certain way. It's truth that's shining. So you have to have two things. You have to have the chamber, and you have to have the point. The point without the chamber is not enough. You have to understand it also. The chamber that wisdom creates is, you have the point, now you create a whole chamber out of this point. This point is it's like a picture is worth 1,000 words. So Chachma is revelation of Hashem's truth that can create a whole thousands of words. You can use Bina to explain that point in a lot of details. So there's the chamber. But it's not enough to have either, just like you can't have the chamber without the point, you can't have the point, just like you can't have the point without the chamber, you can't have the chamber without the point. You also have to remember the point of what's going on over here. Why are you delving into this deep understanding? We're trying to go. And you have to guard and the whole point of who you're speaking about. If without being conscious of chachma, without being conscious of the seminal point of what you're thinking about, what you're delving deeply into, you can go wayward. Just like if you are thinking about any concept, if you don't remember the point of what you're trying to understand, so you can go into a crooked path that your understanding won't be true. And although you could explain it in many ways, you're not going to be explaining the truth. You'll be explaining something that's just ridiculous. That's off. In order to explain something, I didn't do it on purpose. One Jew once, I was studying yeshiva in Florida, one boy, he wrote like a handwritten, like 8 pages of Talmudic insight. And he asked me to look it over before he sent it into to print. So I just asked him, what about this Gemara? How'd you deal with that? He said, oh my gosh, I didn't know about that Gemara. So the whole thing was, I got printed anyway somehow, whatever. But possibly you can go, I do the same thing also myself. I whatever, everyone does this. So you get the point. You go into detail, you get the point. And so the point is what guards the idea. If you're not conscious of what the point you're going to, you can think and have all kinds of ideas, but you forgot the point, nothing. When you remember the point, then your understanding is real. So too spiritually. You can understand it. My great-grandfather, Rabbi Moshe, was once by a farbrengen, and they were discussing the meaning of Baruch Shamar. And they were discussing what level of godliness, what world, every part of the Siddur corresponds to different parts of the spiritual cosmos. Where exactly is Baruch Shamar? The chassidim are talking, is it Atzilus, is it Bria? And Rabbi Moshe said, I think it's talking about God. Like, it's not like guys. Like remember who we're talking about. Atzilus, Bria, the Eibishter. Baruch Shamar is talking about the Eibishter. Hashem spoke and the world came to be. Okay, so
Is he saying that all those cosmos
are not the Eibishter?
are part of it? I mean, that all of it is
I think.
or is he separating?
I think that's I think that's exactly what. Well, I know what he meant, but what basically what we're learning. What I was trying to say was that even though you're saying it's Atzilus, saying it's Bria, you have to know who is Atzilus, who is Bria. Hashem, the way Hashem reveals Himself in Atzilus, Hashem reveals Himself in Bria. It's about the connection. Yes, that you're understanding, you have a perspective, and you remember who you're talking about. You remember who you're talking about. You remember that this understanding is about Hashem's truth. You know not just that there is
Atzilus, Bria, whatever.
Atzilus, Bria are about Hashem. That's it's about Chachma. It's about the truth of Hashem. It's the way Hashem's truth is revealed in Bria and Mitzvah. But it's the Mizitch Magid once came to Baal Shem Tov, and one of his first encounters was with Baal Shem Tov. Famous story how the Baal Shem Tov explained to him a passage in Eitz Chaim. Before the Baal Shem Tov explained to him, he asked the Mizitch Magid to what his thought is about this passage in Eitz Chaim.
Thank you. I'm here.
Okay.
Chaim. Thank you.
He says, how do you understand this passage? So Magid explains the passage. He was a Kabbalist before he met the Baal Shem Tov. He explains it. Baal Shem Tov says, yeah, but he asked him a question. Like, in other words, the question suggested go deeper. So he explained it again and deeper. Baal Shem Tov says, yeah, but it's still missing the point, sort of. So Magid explains it even deeper, and the Baal Shem Tov said, let me try. And he starts explaining it. And it was a passage about angels. And as Baal Shem Tov is explaining it, the angels come into the room. And so it's not that the understanding of the Magid necessarily was deficient. Is that if you don't see the point, if you don't see the angels, you could talk about them later tomorrow, but it's not the same thing. It's a concept. It's a spiritual concept. It's a deep concept, but it's not. There's a truth itself shining. That's Chachma. So, Torah says two things. Our understanding has to be conscious of where it comes from, the Chachma, of that which is beyond understanding. As it says in the Torah, wisdom gives life to its owner. Who is the owner of wisdom? Understanding. But what gives life to the owner? The wisdom. So you can't, Rebbe uses the words, you can't walk away from the truth. That's the meaning of wisdom giving life to its owner, that your understanding is in touch with the truth. And truth has no interruption. That means that when you understand something in your thoughts of Chachma and Bina, that will allow this understanding to penetrate into your heart and to your thought and speech and action. And that is the two letters of God's name, the Vav and the He. Let's now go into the Vav and the He. Rebbe continues, the next segment of the Maamar. Serving Hashem with your Chachma and Bina is not sufficient. You also have to have feelings. You also have to have emotions. Not only do you need to have emotions in order to change your character and to change in the language of chassidus, it's not just to change your natural character, but the nature of your character. As explained elsewhere in chassidus, the distinction between those two passages, let's not get into it right now. But you also need to reveal your neshama's feelings in a way that it's palpable and tangible. You feel love and reverence for Hashem. And also your feelings of tiferes, your feelings of looking at the glory of the King has to be something that's tangible and palpable. And all the feelings of the neshama have to be revealed inside of you. The feelings are the letter Vav. There are two kinds of Vavs. There's a small Vav and there is a long Vav. The small Vav means that you have good character. Vav is numerically equivalent to the number 6, the 6 parts of the 6 emotional character traits. Vav is also about a transfer of from above to below. So there is the large Vav, that's the feelings of the neshama, and there's the smaller Vav, which is the Rebbe explains. You have the line itself, and you have the yud on the top of the line. In the letter vav, there's a yud on top, and there's a line under that line, under that yud. So usually, feelings are a product of our understanding, yes, but once things get into feelings and it gets subjective, you need to let go of the understanding. You have to think about your feelings are now have taken over now, and you've sort of forgotten or stopped thinking about the ideas that have motivated those feelings as much as the feelings themselves. That's only if you're talking about the external parts of your heart. That in order to produce feelings of the animal soul also first sort of forget about the objectivity of the truth. But in the godly soul, in the inner parts of the heart, so there is a line and there is a yud on top of the line. That means there is a consistent flow between the truth you understood and your feelings. It's not like you forget about it, now you have feelings. It's that your understanding itself shines in your heart. It's in the godly soul's production of feelings, there's no need to go from the objective world to the subjective world. Rather, it goes directly from the understanding to your feelings. This is the meaning of what we say in Shabbos and Davening, he drinks from the river, and therefore he can raise his head. What is that talking about? The river is referring to, this verse is referring to the letter Vav, which has a Yud on top and a Vav underneath it. When a person runs his life in a way he drinks from the river of wisdom, that all of his understanding and all of his, it affects the way he behaves, and it affects his character. So then his in short, he is drinking from the river, drinking from the wisdom of truth, and it's lifting up his feelings, it's lifting up his behavior. There's no separation between his understanding. It's his understanding and his chachma is contributing to his feelings and to his behavior. So in the last section of the discourse, let's try to do it briefly. The last letter of God's name are the three garments of the soul: thought, speech, and action. The letter He has three sections. There's two lines, and there is another separate foot of the letter He. The two lines that are connected in the letter He are thought and speech, because thought and speech are connected to each other. And the leg of the He is represented by represents action, which is a separate thing. It's not attached to the other two lines in the letter He. In our service of Hashem, these three things are our thoughts, our words, and actions. In the study of the oral Torah, there is learning, and then there's learning in a way that it brings to action. As it says in the Talmud, why is Torah study so important? It brings you to action. The written Torah and the oral Torah are compared to father and mother, because in the written Torah things are very short and brief without any explanation. In one verse, there's so much that's there in that verse, like the seminal point that produces a child. And there is the Torah of your mother, the oral Torah, which is the extrapolation of all the details that were first in the written Torah. So the Torah says, Torah says you have to have a connection between Chachma and Bina. The written Torah is Chachma, you can't understand it really, and the oral Torah is compared to Bina, and there has to be a connection between them. If you're learning the oral Torah in such great detail, you could forget about the point of the truth that produced this entire discussion. What this means in the spiritual level is as follows. The oral Torah talks about physical things, talks about lies. Reuven says this and Shimon says that, and one of them is lying. And you learn this idea deeply. And the Torah Hashem gave us the Torah in a way that we can understand it. We can have insights in Torah. So you could give insights in the Torah, you could forget about the giver of the Torah. And that's the idea of Chakem B'Bina, bring the wisdom into your understanding. Learn Torah with a sense of bittul. Don't forget that it's the Torah of Hashem. Don't forget that these are the words of Hashem. Don't forget that whenever someone studies Torah, God sits there and studies Torah with that person. And learn Torah in a way that you want to be taught by the Torah. As the Torah is Olim learned, the Torah should teach you something. As it says in the verse, let my tongue respond to your words. That I should respond to your words with a sense of abnegation. That kind of learning, we learn Torah in such a way that God's talking to you, that brings to action. So that's the last hey of Hashem's name. It's about the thought, speech, and action, and Rebbe highlights in this paragraph that we just read that when you're studying the oral Torah, you have to remember that God's talking to you. Although you're going to a deep understanding, remember the Chachma. Just like we learned before about in the letter hey, we learned that you can't forget about the truth of Hashem when you're learning. Don't go away from the truth. So too when you're learning Torah, not about the truth of Hashem, but anything you're studying in Torah, feel that God's talking to you. And when you do, that kind of learning brings to action. Never concludes the discourse as follows. This is the meaning of the ladder that's standing on the earth and its head reaches the heavens. The ladder refers to our service of God in prayer with our hearts. That this prayer connects the person with godliness through the essence of the soul, and when he purifies his body and his actions are desirable, then he could feel what is dripping into him from the essence of his soul. When he reveals in his service of God the letters of God's name, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey that we just discussed, that he affects himself, that he serves God with his mind and heart, and practically, the latter two letters of God's name, for the actual performance of mitzvahs, practically, with a chayis pnimi, with the inner energy, with the inner excitement. So it says in the Torah that just as the b'midash adam meided ba meidin lay, in the measure, God takes care of a person measure for measure. So when he serves God in this manner, so then God allots for him measure for measure, that he has lots of blessings. That God also takes care of him in his physical life and his physical needs of his body and his parnasa beyond nature. So because he is serving Hashem beyond his own nature, so Hashem also helps this person and gives him abundance in his physical life and his physical needs of his body and his parnasa, also beyond nature. Okay, we'll stop here. This is the conclusion of the discourse. And that conclusion of the discourse. Now we have to start learning the discourse.
I have to read this.